Hey everybody, it's Ryan with AGJ coming to you this week with another tech tip. This week's tech tip is all about a communication policy. Before you turn me off, communication policies may not be the most exciting thing we've ever covered, but they're very beneficial. They can save you time, they can save you money, and today I'll show you how. So this is ours. It's a small one-pager. If you don't have a communication policy or any standards for your staff in place, shoot me an email and I'll be glad to shoot you a copy of ours. It'll maybe save you a few hours worth of work. So why do you need something like this? Well, it tells your staff, it tells everybody that works with you how they should communicate internally as well as externally. How do they email each other? How do they talk to vendors? How do they talk to clients? And if you put this in writing ahead of time, you put some thought into it, it can really save a lot of misunderstandings. The very first thing ours covers is that there's multiple levels of communication, kind of the communication hierarchy. We're talking about text, email, voicemail, phone calls, Skype calls, and even in-person meetings. Well, if you use the wrong one at the wrong time, you can create trouble. In fact, our policy is if something can even be conveyed, construed, even possibly seen as negative, you got to skip the first few and go straight to a phone call or an in-person meeting, because you just simply don't get tone from an email or text. You can't tell, was that a joke? Was that happy? Was that person mad? It's hard to detect tone in an email or a text. You know, we have a client. He always emails in all caps. I think his caps button must be on all the time. So one day I asked him, I said, man, do you realize, in internet etiquette, all caps means you're screaming? And he said, oh, I didn't know that. But yet today he still emails in all caps. So I wonder how many of his clients, how many of his vendors, how many of his employees thinks he's screaming at them all the time. So a communication policy can help with that. It also addresses things like volume. Man, I get a lot of email. The good news is I get a lot less today than I used to. But a lot of it used to be just me being carbon copied on things that I don't even need to know. So a communication policy can basically describe, when do you need to copy somebody? When do you need to reply? Goodness gracious, don't use the reply all unless you have to. Those reply alls will get you. And don't use BCC unless you have to. To me, BCC is almost evil. So the communication policy can address a few things like that. Well, how can it save you some money? Well, there's a new scam, and by the way, we're on the security email list of all the big security companies and the FBI, so we're notified as soon as there's a new virus or spyware or a new scam out there. There's a new one we just found out about today. There's a version of this that's been floating around for a few months called the CEO scam. The way it used to work, the old version, somebody in your bookkeeping or your finance department would get an email from what looked to be the owner or the CEO saying, hey, I'm unavailable by email or phone, but please wire $20,000 to this account ASAP. And that's it. And you'd be amazed at how many companies around the United States fell for that. There were money going to these crooks like you wouldn't believe, when a simple phone call or email would have solved the problem. Well, the new version of the scam, because it's tax season, it still looks like it's coming from the owner or the CEO, but it's generally sent to the finance people, to the bookkeeper, to the CFO, and it says, hey, please send me a copy of all of our W-2s. Well, you can imagine if a crook gets their hands on W-2s, that's just identity theft waiting to happen. So if you see something like that, by all means, pick up the phone, call or text or email the CEO, the owner, and say, did this really come from you? 99% of the time, that will solve the problem, and you'll find out, oh, they didn't really email me this. It's not a real request. It's a scam. So what else can a communication policy do? Like I said, it can really end some of the volume of email you're getting. I get a ton of email internally. We used to use a group messaging app called GroupMe, and we've switched to a new app called Slack, S-L-A-C-K. If you email a lot internally or if you work on projects internally, check out Slack. It's more of a group collaboration platform. It works on phones, it works on desktops, it works on laptops and tablets. So it can really save you time if you're used to getting lots of internal emails about work and projects. So again, just to kind of reiterate, you need a communication policy in your office. If you don't have one, shoot me an email. I'll be glad to send you ours as a starter. And do not reply, do not send money over wire transfers without talking to the business owner. And by all means, don't send copies of W-2s either. So beware of that scam. I'll have a blog out on it later today just to kind of remind everybody of that. But look forward to talking to you next tech tip. And if you need anything in the meantime, give us a call. Thanks.